I am so excited for, everyone that's jumping on and wondering, what we're about to talk about. Obviously, we've been posting about it, but I am so excited to, chat with you, Nikki Cummings. You are like self-made entrepreneur, female, like all of the things. I'm like, I mean, besides like on the contrary to like Stevie Nicks, I definitely look up to you and the way that you run your life and you see life. And so I have always wanted to ask you a ton of questions, but I thought to myself, I might as well make it public so other people can hear what you have to say as well, because what you have to say has such impact. So I wanted to give you the platform really quick and just have yourself introduce yourself so everyone knows who we're speaking to.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, so Erica and I have known each other for a few years, quite a few years now. It's hard to believe. Her mother-in-law and I are friends, and you are an inspiration to me. So let me just start off by saying that I have known Erica since she was in college and dating her now husband, Drew. And she is just so precious, and watching how transparent you are, even like yesterday, like you said, it was out of your comfort zone to be vulnerable, but in a world where we share our highlight reel and everything we see is everybody's filtered and best moments.
Yep.
This is, you are not that. You are real, you are honest, you are approachable, you're driven, and you're sharing all of the things every day. And so I love watching where you come from and where you are, and I can't wait to see where you're going to go. I know it's going to be far. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
much.
So yeah, so my husband and I are self-made entrepreneurs. We, I graduated high school. I grew up in Tehachapi, the town where I live now, but small town girl, couldn't wait to get out of here. Couldn't get, out of town far enough away fast enough, and moved to the big city. I found myself in Honolulu within a year or two and was working in advertising, and I had a promising career. I knew that I wanted to be self-sufficient and was pretty driven. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career, but I knew whatever it was, I wanted to be successful. And I was not looking to get married. I was not looking to, be in a long-term relationship. And I was in a conference in San Diego, called up an old Tehachapi friend who I say it was love at second sight. We hadn't seen each other in 5 years. And we fell in love. And 2.5 months later, after living in Honolulu for 3 years, I was back in San Diego with, the love of my life, who later became my husband and my business partner. So I say he's my partner in life and my partner in business, my number one client, and, all the things. So he was already an entrepreneur and had owned a company in San Diego that's actually still in operation today. We sold it a few years ago, but I'm just going to readjust here. But so I started about a year into our relationship. I started working for him, and the company fell on hard times. And when you go through the fire, like right now, COVID-19, quarantine, people aren't working, people are losing their businesses, they're afraid, they don't know how to innovate, expand their product services. What are they going to do to stay relevant in their space? I have been down that road many times in our businesses. And so that business was in a season like that. And I just told Buddy, like, let me take over this division. I think I got this. I've never done anything like it. But slowly but surely, we saved the company. And it took a lot of grit and hard work. And there is no secret recipe. It is hard work. And that is the secret to our success. So we ended up starting another company, relocating back to Tehachapi. That company now has over 500 employees and is the largest employer in our community. We sold it a couple years ago, and we announced our retirement last November. And now we're in, Buddy and Nikki 3.0. We're in a new phase in our life. So that's a very fast, high level.
I love it. I love it. But you are everything. You're a wife, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, business owner, all of it. And yes, so that's why I wanted to chat with you. Yes, because that's why I wanted to chat with you. Obviously, I can't even believe it, but Iris is going to be 1 on Saturday.
Crazy.
But I started my business 3 months postpartum. So to me, looking at you and how you've built all of these years, but you've built with your children along the way, I've really always loved how you've done that. And so to me, I know that I'm not alone in this building right now, building with a baby and growing a family. And to me, I wanted to ask you all of these questions. So I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. And I'm so excited. But, the first thing that I wanted to, ask you is, on your bio, it says, Nikki is driven to help young women identify how to have it all by ditching their preconceived beliefs about success and designing the life of their dreams. And that was like one of my favorite parts of your bio because it
Yeah.
spoke to me. And so to me, I wanted to ask you, with that final point in your bio, that's like literally like the last thing that you leave people with. How in your life do you define your success?
Well, thank you. Yeah. So I truly believe that you have to be purposeful and intentional about your day and your life and your goals. Otherwise, you're not going to be taking traction. And I'm very performance driven and an overachiever. And so for me, you know, three priorities outside of my spiritual walk, right? That's the number one priority. And I should always lead with that. And that keeps me grounded and centered. But my husband, so it's being a wife, it's being a mom to my three children, and being a leader in our business and then in our community. And so that's a lot of things, right? When you're driven and you want to be a great mom and a great wife and a great entrepreneur and successful. So for me, making progress on the goals every day or regularly is a priority. So that starts with an annual evaluation of my goals. My husband and I do it together. We do it separately and then we come together, right? So that we make sure that we're aligned or that we understand what the other person's trying to work on in the year. And then it's a quarterly review of those goals. Am I tracking? Have I crossed goals off? Do I need to shift a little bit? What's going on in our family? So quarterly review. I write down my goals every single morning, no matter what, without fail. I write down my goals every single day. And then lastly is on Sunday, you know, they say a Sunday well spent brings a day of content. And so for me on Sunday, I try to get into my planner. Here's my planner right here, actually the one I use, but you know, a planner is a planner. This is my priority planner. I love it. But I plan my week. And so I make sure that with my phone calendar and my old school hard copy planner, that everything is in there that I've got going on. And then what are the things that I want to take traction on? And then I time block those things out. And that is how I'm able to define what my successful week is going to look like and then make sure that I'm taking traction on that every day.
I love writing your goals every single day. I think that's like definitely something I'm going to incorporate in my everyday now.
Yeah, it's great.
I like write things down, but like I think like goals, because then you're like, okay, this is like a non-negotiable then. Like
yes.
when I write it down. I love that. Okay.
Yes,
Awesome.
and make sure that you don't have too many goals, right? I think we can be guilty of like when I do my annual goal setting, we go big. We write like, what is my life like in 20 years, 10 years, 5 years? What do I look like? What do I wear? What do I drive? You know, what's my relationship like with my kids? All the things. But then you pare it down like, what's realistic in the next 12 months? Or what's something that's going to take a little bit longer that I need to be working on today in order to achieve? So I just have 10 goals. So I'm writing down 10 goals every day. And then, you know, it's knowing what your priorities are. Like I said, being a wife, that's a conscious decision every day. And sometimes it takes work, right, to have an exceptional marriage. And same with being a mom. I work, and so I don't get to have the quality time with them on a big, like, expansive quantity basis. My career required me to travel and whatnot. So it's making sure that even when I don't have the quantity, it's having the quality time. And then, you know, as a business leader, just pushing in on those goals.
I love that. And so with all of that being said, it's kind of almost led us into the next question that I have for you is those unrealistic expectations. Because I feel definitely society has created this stigma of, you know, women in business and mothers and all of this stuff. Like it's insane amounts of unrealistic expectations where we almost feel like we have mom guilt or we're not enough or, you know, all of those types of feelings. So for what I wanted to ask you with society's unrealistic expectations, what advice can you give to entrepreneur mothers as they are building their empires?
Yeah, so I think the number one piece of advice that I can give is to embrace the fact that this is your life and no one else's, right? Yeah. No one else gets to define what success looks like but you. And if you're married, but you and your partner, right? And if you're not married, then you need to decide what kind of partner you need because of the life that you want to build for yourself, right? Make sure that you have a partner believes in those values as well. But it's knowing that it's not your parents, it's not your in-laws, it's not your girlfriends, it's, you know, it's you and your partner or you get to decide, and it's not society. You have to be okay with that. And then number two, it's being okay with asking for help. At some point, like you being a stay-at-home and working mom, Iris is going to get to the point where she's busier and busier, and your empire is hopefully going to grow and grow.
Right.
And I think we have to give each other grace, ourselves grace as
Yeah.
moms. We have to learn to know that it's okay to ask for help when you get
I
to a
love that.
season where you need to have support a few hours a day or a couple days a week, that you have to give yourself grace to be okay with that. So know that it's okay to ask for help. And then to number one, stop talking bad to ourselves, right? I feel like
Yeah.
I'm guilty of negative self-talk and like
Yeah.
not giving myself the love that I deserve, right? I doubt myself and I beat myself up. And then number two is comparison versus inspiration, right? And so it's okay to be inspired by people, right? Like we're inspired by each other. I see what you're
Right.
doing with Arbonne and how you're on social all the time and connecting with your people. And that's inspiring. But if I'm comparing and if I'm feeling like less of a person because of everybody's, like I said, highlight reel, I always say
Yeah.
on the reel. I want to be real on the reel, not experience, my highlight reel. And
Right.
so we just have to stop comparing and worry about how many likes we get, how many
Yeah.
followers we get, and just be okay with being ourselves. And that to me is ditching society's expectations and just, honing in on who you are.
Wow. I know that I am
Sorry,
not
that's a
like
lot.
the only one that's listening to this and like mouths drop. Like I saw so many like people hearting what you were saying as you were
Oh,
saying it.
thanks, guys.
And it's so true. I mean, comparison is the thief of joy. But I think, hearing it from someone like you is like so impactful. And so thank you so much for those words, because not only are they helping me shift my mindset, I know that they're helping so many other people shift theirs too. Um,
Yeah.
and when we last spoke on the phone, you said something to me that really resonated. And you said the secret is letting go.
Mm.
And to me, that really spoke to me because I am an overthinker and I don't let things go. So when you said that, I thought, okay, wow, well, if Nikki lets go, I need to let go in those types of things of like, not overthinking. So in that phone call, you said the secret is letting go. So can you explain on how can you explain on how you do that in the sense of letting go to make your dreams become a reality without losing yourself in the process?
Yeah. So for me, learning that I couldn't, like, I had this ideal as a young person of what having it all looked like, and I was hell bent on having it all.
Yeah.
And from a child, right, watching Cinderella and having all the fairy tales, and then what your parents say, your grandparents say, your outside influences. I had successful aunts who were lawyers and this and that. So I had all these great influences, helping me define what I thought having it all looks like. And I was going to be all the things. I was going to be Martha Stewart. I was basically going to be Joanna Gaines, right?
Yeah.
Even though she wasn't like, an influencer at the time. I was going to be, everything and be perfect. And so I made it look pretty good for a while. We started our business and we were living on the road, and I had a baby, and then I was pregnant with another one, and we were growing this empire, living in a motorhome. And then we'd come home and I was this entertaining, person, and I would cook and this and that. And I was fueled by the fact people would say, how do you do it all? Like blah, blah, blah. And that fueled me. Right. And I was loving it, but to the point of almost having a breakdown, right? Because at some point I was just burning out. The company was growing and scaling, but I was still trying to be all the things in every element of my life. And at one point, actually, I had an accident, and I had some damage to my sciatic nerve, and I ended up in the hospital, and Buddy was out of town on business. And a friend of ours had to come over in the middle of the night to be with our children, and I had to go to the hospital because of my sciatic. I was like basically paralyzed, and it was not, I wasn't paralyzed just temporarily, but I was in so much pain. And I remember laying there in the hospital bed by myself in the middle of the night, my husband 4 hours away, and driving home frantically to get to me and the kids, and just thinking, like, this has to stop. I can't keep this pace, this life. This is not, balanceable, or I can't keep this up. Right. And so I had to identify with my family what our priorities were. And Buddy and I had to look at our life and say, okay, what are the areas that we're going to deem a priority? And I had to have the freedom, and ended up, at first it's scary, but now I am so free knowing what works for our family and knowing what our life looks like. And it does not look like a lot of other families, but it works so well for us. So I had to identify what was our priorities. I had to let go of everything that wasn't. And then I also had to let go of some guilt because
Yeah.
then there was like, well, I thought I was going to be, you know, Joanna Gaines and the perfect Christmas tree and yada yada. So I had to let some of that go,
Yeah.
and you know that it was like okay. And then